Uh, Good morning. Welcome to the launch of our Atlas grant project program. This is new to our office, and excited to be part of this program. So, let's see, and learning how to operate the slides. There we go. So, who is who in this presentation? We'll have our office. We have Steve Aldrich, the Deputy GIO Program and Outreach uh, and then we also have Karen Arnold from our office. She's in charge of GIS projects and grants. Myself is Imagery and Elevation Program Manager, and then Rick and Dan as our outreach coordinators. And then also with the special guest of David Schilling from SBA to talk about the grant software. All right, and quick just an overview of the agenda. We have our office. We have the grant program and overview that Karen will be talking about, and then navigating the MAPS grant tracks that Steve will be talking about, and then again David will be reviewing the UNIT grant platform for everyone. All right, and just one more kind of housekeeping. But as you're watching the presentation, if you'd like to scooch forward or backwards, you can do that on the lower left corner, and up on the upper right, you'll have the option to include type in your chat, mute yourself, and raise your hand. So those are all options that you'll have available as a listener. And all right, with that, let's go ahead and get started with an introduction of our office. So, our office has a mission uh, of basically three parts. Statutory responsibilities of having open data for the public and for others. It, basically building that transparency, and then we also have the maintenance of our framework layers. So you'll be seeing some of those framework layers pop up here in these future slides, and then also just our outreach and coordination with federal, state, local, and also as part of that our universities, which ties in well with this grant program. So. Here, just to take a minute and to introduce the two kind of halves to our organization. We have on the left side, we have the enterprise and infrastructure. Sandeep, the counterpart to Steve, manages our infrastructure, so managing the servers, the software, and also most importantly, internally to state agencies, that enterprise ArcGIS platform that we have, and then on the right side you can see Steve with our programs and outreach side of the team. All right, so one of the first programs that our office has is the Indiana Map. This is a long-standing platform that has existed in Indiana for several decades, and really the hallmark pieces of this has the open data again. So we talked about that. We also have over 450 now data layers, and really a neat piece of this is that collaborative effort through with other agencies. So we're able to collaborate live with our layers with our partners, and also a very important part of this is the free community AGOL accounts that are available for folks to be able to sign up for and take advantage of. So, and then not to forget the videos and guides there as well. So and the other program that we have is the Data Harvest program. This is really an incredible program that's grown from the beginnings of early 2008, where we started collecting data harvest layers, so that we had the addresses, streets, and parcels and administrative boundaries across the entire state. And now we regularly brag on voluntarily submitted data for all 92 counties across the state, and then we also have the outreach, the output data sets for the geocoding. So if you're needing to validate addresses, you can do that based upon this local government information across the entire state. And see, and so the last program here I'd like to talk about as part of our framework data layers is the imagery and elevations. This is the program that I help manage, and we have the two components of this program cycle: ortho imagery at 3-inch buy-up, and the elevation at quality level 1, so it has that 10 vertical centimeter accuracy. And we'll also have a 2-foot digital elevation model for those folks wanting to use the elevation for watershed analysis and such. And then on the right side, we have kind of that tier map, so you can see that we have a 3-tiered system to this program, where we collect imagery on the center tier, and on the western side, on the eastern side, and then we move to the western side. So again, and then we also things to point out. We've got the marker there, 68 million web service requests over the first half of 2025, and this goes to the open data platform again of our program. So and then the in.QAQC. So with that, we've got one more slide, I guess, to talk about that 3-inch buy-up that we were able to achieve for the state. And you can see that transitioning from the 6-inch base product to that 3-inch base product, what users will be able to see with this imagery. And now also to include a slide for the outreach team. So we have Dan up located on the northern half of Indiana, and Rick on the southern half of Indiana, and they're our outreach folks. So part of our mission again is to coordinate with local government and others. So they're out there listening and most importantly bringing that information back to our office. So we're making sure that our programs are effective, and we're developing the best programs we can for everyone. All right, and let's see, just kind of overall office impact. And this the big one for me that this recognizes is that open data, where we're being able to maximize our return on investment. So by having that open data, we're able to further benefit, get that return on investment with state agencies, with local government, and others as well. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Karen to start talking about the Atlas Grant Program.
All right, thanks, Sean. Okay, so we'll just jump right in. So the Atlas Grant is an opportunity to enhance geospatial technologies by empowering educational and academic institutions, school districts and schools, and nonprofit educational institutions to advance applied geospatial research, enhance the accessibility of geographic data, and to promote best practices in geographic data management and analysis. Additionally, the grant supports broadening geospatial thinking and concepts across various disciplines to meet the growing demands of the geospatial industry. We've broken the mission into 3 goals, which, as Steve will explain later, align with the grant's tracks. The goals support the various needs that were identified during the grant-making process, including a need for standardized, efficient models and methods to use and apply Indiana's framework data, a need for practical tools that reduce duplication of effort and improve efficiency, and a need for consistency and scalability so solutions aren't one-off but are reusable statewide. In addition, the goals address a need for a broader understanding of geospatial concepts and curriculum and training that make geospatial tools accessible to both educators, learners, and the professional workforce was identified. Finally, the goals address a need to improve the accessibility and usability of geospatial datasets by supporting projects that focus on developing better practices for storing, sharing, and discovering Indiana's open geospatial data. The eligible applicants for this grant include academic institutions, schools and school districts, and nonprofit organizations, specifically nonprofit organizations geared towards educational institutions. Okay, so here we go into some of the grant details. So the Geographic Information Office has allocated $150,000 of the state appropriated funding they receive, or we receive per fiscal year over the next 2 fiscal years. This is going to be contingent upon that funding being made available. Each year, the program will target up to 4 awards. These awards will be of varying amounts, but the total amount awarded will not exceed $150,000 per fiscal year. It is possible for multiple awards to be awarded to the same institution if multiple distinct projects involving different personnel are selected for award. Individuals involved in these projects may be co-PIs on multiple grants, but may not be the lead PI on more than one Atlas grant. And Steve will go a little bit more into that when we get into the frequently asked questions a little later in the presentation. The budget for the grant will be completed in the Unigrants portal, and that'll be done during the application process. More information about completing the budget and the Unigrants application process can be found when we have the SBA webinar that will cover when those are going to happen a little bit later in the presentation as well. This slide shows the allowable costs for that we allowing for this grant. And when completing the budget, we're asking if you could please be sure to provide details of the cost calculations in the budget narrative. And that'll all make more sense once you attend that SBA training webinar and you can actually see the budget form and the place for that narrative. Again, more information about completing the budget is going to be provided during the SBA training webinars, which we'll have that schedule here in just a little bit. Okay, so this slide shows the timeline of the Atlas grant. Applications are open now. The application period opened on August 4th, and it will remain open until September 26th. We will be sending out award notifications on October 14th, and the awardee acceptance deadline is October 24th. We are anticipating the performance period will begin on January 30th, and the performance period will last for 1 year until January 30th, 2027. So a couple of key things to point out here. The awardees must accept the award by the deadline in order to receive the grant. The performance period cannot begin until after the grant contract is executed and finally approved, and the subrecipients are going to have 1 year from the beginning of the performance period to complete the project. Applicants are eligible to apply in multiple years. Okay, so the Atlas grant is a reimbursement-based grant. We are requiring activity and financial reporting at 2 points during the grant period. We're asking for an activity and financial report at the midpoint and at closeout, and each of those reports are going to be due within 30 days of that midpoint or closeout period. All of the activity reports are going to be submitted through the Unigrant Solution platform. The financial report is also the reimbursement request. So as we go through that SBA training, again, I encourage you, if you're going to be applying for this grant, to attend those training sessions. You'll see how to convert a financial report from just reporting that you spent some money to actually a reimbursement request where you'd like to request to have that funding back. At the points where you can submit the reimbursement request and the activity reports, you can request 50% of your budget if you've completed 50% of your project work. And that's how the amount that you can request is going to be calculated. Okay. So we have received a few questions about the Atlas grant, and I would like to cover what we've received so far here. But if you have any questions, we'll have some contact information a little later on. You'll be able to submit those questions to us, and we can grow these frequently asked questions and hopefully get those answers out to everyone. The first question that we received, or maybe not the first question that we received, but a question that we received is, can each awardee receive the maximum amount of $150,000? And the answer to that is no. The total program per fiscal year will only total $150,000. So we're going to have a target of up to 4 awards, and those are going to be varying amounts, but we will not award more than $150,000 because that's our total budget. Second question, will the IGIO accept more than one proposal from a single institution? Yes, we will accept multiple proposals, and we may even award multiple awards to a single institution. Again, assuming that these are distinct projects and with the co-PI on multiple grants, but not being a lead PI on more than one. Does the grant allow for travel expenses such as conference travel? The answer to this one's maybe. We do note in the NOFO document, the Notice of Funding Opportunity document, that we will consider travel expenses, but it will be based on a case-by-case basis, and we'll be reviewing those requests and making that determination at that time. Another question that we received is the question about whether MPOs would be eligible. So that would be a metropolitan planning organization. And the answer to that question is no, because this grant, the only eligible applicants are schools, academic institutions, and nonprofit organizations. So a government entity is not eligible to apply. And with that, I will pass it over to Steve to talk more about the Atlas grant tracks, navigating maps.
Great, thanks, Karen. Yeah, so this grant has a somewhat unique feature in that we're kind of targeting projects that fit within one of 2 tracks. And when you apply for this grant, you will have to indicate which track your project fits within. So I want to describe these and then give you some examples about projects that we thought of that might fall into each of these. But I'll give you a warning, just because we thought of a project doesn't mean that that's what we're looking for or that's only what we're going to fund or something like that. It was just really for illustration purposes to help you think about your projects and which track they would fit into. So the first of the tracks is the Navigate track. That stands for Nurturing Academic Vision in Geospatial and Technological Education. And this is really an education-focused grant opportunity. So the purpose here is the development of educational materials, training programs, and other ways of incorporating geospatial thinking into education in Indiana. So we're looking really to help people in Indiana understand geospatial thinking and geospatial technologies. Our other track is the MAPS track. This is Modern Applications for Processing Spatial Data. And this is really more of the technical kind of research driven track. And the purpose here is the creation of tools or processes using Indiana's framework data or other data that's really important to Indiana for the creation of scalable, repeatable, or practical tools or processes, right? So the idea here is let's make things better. Let's make things more accessible. And that's the other kind of part of this purpose, is to enable access to open spatial data like you find on Indiana Map. Oops, I double-clicked there. All right, so a little bit more about the Navigate track. The strategic intent here really is to expand geospatial thinking across the curriculum in the state. And this is a K-20 grant, so I know a lot of our guests here are involved in universities and colleges, but this is really open to educational institutions of all levels, right? And we all know that expanding geospatial thinking earlier in a student's career is good for us as geospatial practitioners, geographers, et cetera, right? So the idea is the intent here is to develop and disseminate Indiana-focused geospatial training resources for Hoosiers. So some example projects here might be, to develop educational materials, whether that's a program of lesson plans or really literally even training programs. Another project that might be of interest in this track might be to host statewide geospatial education events or host challenges to encourage innovative uses of geospatial data and geospatial technologies, similar to some of the coding boot camps, perhaps, right? Might be an idea. And then establishing something like mentorship programs that link individuals with professionals in geospatial fields within Indiana to help develop our workforce. These are the kinds of projects that might fit within the Navigate track. And if you're curious about maybe some more specifics, the Notice of Funding Opportunities document, which is linked to on the webpage for the Atlas Grant, is a good resource as well. At the end of this presentation, I'll drop a link or a chat message that has the links for all of the from all of the slides in this presentation. All right, the Maps track is different, right? So here, the strategic intent is to develop innovative or user-friendly tools that really do allow people better access to Indiana's open geospatial data. We might be looking for ways of accessing the data that might improve, but also maybe new insights from existing data sets, the combination of data sets in novel ways to point out things we didn't know about our community. And really the focus here is implementing FAIR principles on cloud-based scalable solutions. And FAIR principles, by the way, are that data should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and accurate. I think it's the other one. We have accessible in there twice, I just noticed. It should be very accessible, right? Some examples of projects here. We actually kind of have two themes within this, although you don't have to call out the themes when you apply. But as we were thinking about this track for this grant, we were thinking about developing analytical tools and processes. And the purpose here was, projects that create practical tools using data or applicable to Indiana's data, right? So using data from Indiana or applicable to Indiana's framework data. And that includes, as we've kind of mentioned before, but this might be a more complete list. It includes imagery, elevation, cadastral data, public land survey system data, geodetic control, government boundary units, water features, addresses, and street center lines. And, within this kind of idea within the Maps track, we're really looking for a tool or a process that's scalable or repeatable. So the idea is, user-friendly tools to optimize the value of the data we have, or processes that derive new insights from the data we already have. Some example projects that might fit into this might be using machine learning or other tools to combine data sets to identify patterns that we didn't know existed. Another example might be creating online data visualization and dissemination tools, especially for data that might not traditionally be online. And then creating automated workflows for data extraction or data classification, right? And then the other kind of theme within the Maps track of the grant might be improving accessibility and optimizing the storage of our data. So the state of Indiana uses open data storage offered by Amazon to store a lot of our larger data sets. But sometimes getting access to these data, if you're not a data scientist or machine learning expert, can be a little bit daunting. And so one thing that could fit with under the Maps program would be improving access, public access, and easy access to data stored in these kind of data buckets, right? So the purpose of this kind of theme in here is to support projects that make data sets accessible and optimized in our open data environment. So that really some examples that could fit within this would be developing solutions to improve public data discovery and public data use, enhancing metadata to improve search and filter capabilities would be another example of a project that might fit under this theme, or developing solutions to optimize publishing, hosting, and dissemination of data. So the Maps track might be a little bit more confusing because it's pretty broad, but really when you apply for an Atlas grant, you just have to choose between the Navigate track, which is more education focused, education programs, and the maps track, which is a little bit more technical and focused on tools, processes, accessibility, and storage of geospatial data in the state. And with that, I will pass it along to David.
All right, thank you very much. Sorry, a little new to me here about using the system, but all right, guys, what I want to talk to you a little bit about is this Unigrants, okay? Is that, first of all, Unigrants is anonymous or synonymous with eCivis. Back in 2023, believe it or not, September 2023, SBA adopted a new grants management system called eCivis at that time, which is now Unigrants. And so what Unigrants does is it builds a collaborative work area for people to be able to submit their applications and then actually manage these grants as we get down the road. The state recognized that we need some standardization. All these different agencies have these different ways of collecting their information, different systems everybody had to learn for doing this, and it became really difficult then for the state to be able to gather this data to see how we were doing when it came to federal and state grants management. So they adopted Unigrants, which again is a really easy, intuitive software for people to use. That's one of the best things about it, is that it's very straightforward. We say it's as easy as ordering off of Amazon, just actually a lot cheaper. So what you'll do is you'll actually be able to go to the SBA website, because the SBA team has built an entire web page dedicated just towards Unigrants. You'll be able to find the actual solicitations on that page, all the resources you're going to need, whether it's training videos, quick reference guides, user guides to walk you through all these things. Everything that you're going to need, you'll be able to find on the website, so that you can apply for you can find the grant there, research the grant there, apply for the grant there. You'll be able to go back and actually then manage your grant there. And so there's lots of benefits to the portal. There's no cost for using the portal. It's one of the nice things is there's no cost associated to it. You can create as many portal accounts as you need to actually help you manage your grant as you're going through there. But what's really nice about it, again, it's that collaborative workspace. When the grant has pending tasks, such as your activity reports or reimbursement requests, they'll be listed when those things are due. And so you'll know when these things are upcoming. And then as you accomplish those tasks, they'll actually be then put into an area where I've completed areas. So just by going to into the Unigrants portal for your grant, you'll be able to see when things are due, what has been accomplished, who did those, get reports of those. And like I mentioned, you can build your team. So now you can even take care of the communications aspect. When somebody submits a financial report, it'll alert everybody on the team what's been done. So it's a simple little collaborative space that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. I said, because of the benefits such as, having everything in one-stop shop. And speaking of one-stop shops, that's where the support aspect comes into with SBA. And it's then back to the website. We have lots of resources to walk you through all the processes of this. We actually even have office hours that we created. And these are instructor-led office hours that you can attend on a bi-weekly basis. We go over all the different aspects of utilizing the portal, and it's director-led. They're not just videos you're watching. It's seminars like this. We can ask questions. So it's a great way for you to have any kind of quick question or any kind of reference that you need to be able to get support on a regular scheduled basis. Plus, we have a whole group dedicated to supporting this. So maybe your agency would like to have a little extra support with this. You can submit a ticket to the SBA team. We can set up one-on-one training with you. We can set up training with your organization. We can answer any specific questions you have at any time. And so it's simple and easy to use. We have a couple of seminars set up with IoT specifically for this grant where we're going to walk you guys through this. We're going to walk you through the application portion. We're going to show you what the application is, how easy it is to fill it out. And then, not if, but when you get awarded your grant, we're going to have a couple sessions set up to show you how to submit those financial reports, show you how to submit activity reports, amendments in case you need that, or how to track everything. Again, that's one of the biggest benefits of the portal is the ability to track exactly where you stand. So as you submit your reimbursement request, you'll see exactly how much money you've asked for, how much money you have left, the pending status of any of those reports have been sent to you. So again, it's a really wonderful way of being able to help you manage these grants And the best thing is too, like I said, the state has adopted this. This is statewide. All state and federal grants will be going through the system. So once you learn it, you don't have to learn a whole new system for next year if somebody else is doing it, or if IoT is doing another grant that you're involved with, or any stage that you're interested in. You don't have to learn a new proprietary system. It's going to be the same system, make it easier for everybody through standardization. That way the state can collect their information much easier. You'll have that same interface that you're comfortable with working with, no matter what grants you're working on at the time. And there's lots of support for it. That's the biggest thing that I want to leave you with today, is knowing that whether it's IoT and some of the things that they do to help support their things with their contact information, or building specific documentations about those grants, IoT is going to walk you through the specifics of the grant. SBA and the grants management team is here to help you with anything when it comes to utilizing the portal, any of the functionality of the portals, the benefits you can gain from that, specialized training for yourself, for your agency, or any specific you need. We're here to cover that. So just to let you know that no matter where you are in the process, you've got support with you, whether it's the specifics of the grant or using the functionality of the application. We're here to support you through the whole process. And everyone we worked with so far has been very happy with it, especially with the, especially with the Unigrants portal, because of its intuitiveness, easy to use, and the way that, it standardized and tracks everything you do. So looking forward to working with you guys, and I'll turn it back over to the next one so we can continue on.
Great, thanks, David. Let me see. I think our presentation went away. Give me a moment to bring it
Sorry
back.
About that.
You're good. Here we go. I'll just have to move it to the correct slide. Give me a moment here. All right, are we seeing the resource slide now, my friends from the Indiana Geographic Information Office, or David?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Sorry about that, Steve.
You're totally fine. This is this is my first time presenting in PowerPoint presentation in Teams as well. So as David said, look, there are a lot of resources here, and just a point of clarification in case anyone was confused, the Indiana Geographic Information Office sits within IoT, the Indiana Office of Technology. So when David was mentioning IoT, that's the larger agency that we work out of. So just to clear up any confusion, because I noticed some names that maybe don't interact with our office that much in the participant list. So if you've ever applied for a grant, and I bet you have, you know that it can be a little bit daunting, and that's why we have Unigrants and the great resources from SBA. I also dropped a chat message that includes the links on all of the slides in this presentation right now. But we have some other key resources that we just wanted to mention or at least underline again for you. First off, we have the Atlas Grant webpage. And so this page has pretty much all of the information that's been talked about here in this presentation. Also links to the Notice of Funding Opportunities document, the SBA grants website, and information about some frequently asked questions that Karen covered a little bit earlier. And as we get more questions, we'll update that list on the website as well. You can also, in addition to SBA's grant resources, if you have questions about this particular grant opportunity and how that aren't covered in the Notice of Funding Opportunity document or this webinar or the other resources, please reach out to us at giogrants@iot.in.gov. We're happy to field any questions about this grant opportunity, because we want you to put together a project that's going to really make an impact for the state, right? SBA has other resources too that David had mentioned. We have the Next Level Grant Management resources for subrecipients. SBA's office hours are a good opportunity to reach out if you're having any kind of questions with the Unigrants platform in particular. And then there are other state agency grant opportunities that come up, and it's a good page if you're a grants manager or interested in grants in the state of Indiana. It's a good page to bookmark and check out often, because grant opportunities will come up, and that's a good central place to get information about state grants. David and Karen have mentioned that we have other upcoming webinars, and they kind of fit within two tracks. So this SBA has two pre-award webinars, and they are different from each other. So they're not a repeat of the same webinar. The intended audience is applicants and grant administrators, and they cover, I guess, I'm sorry, I saw an earlier thing. The pre-award webinars cover the same topic, so you don't have to come to both. They cover unigrants, account creation, and application submission on that platform. And then there will be a post-award webinar for folks who have applied for the grant and been awarded a grant, and that will be mandatory. You will have to come to that in order to understand your responsibilities as an awardee. And then we are also going to rerun this webinar on Thursday, September 4th. It'll be the same information in this webinar. So if you've attended this one, you don't have to come to the second one. If you join us, we're happy to have you listen to us talk. But it is an opportunity, if you've got colleagues or friends who might be able to take advantage of this grant opportunity, please share that information with them as well. All right. And then finally, we want to hear from you. Yeah, you can check out the Atlas grant specifics on the webpage, but you can also email us at giogrants@iot.in.gov. And then we wanted to point out one other resource where we will be talking about the grant program, this one and the SEED grant program, which goes to counties that our office administers, and lots of other fun topics at our blog, Geo Insights. And you can get to that through either the link I put in the chat or the QR code on the screen here. And with that, we are done with the webinar portion of this presentation. If you have any questions, I think you probably can put them in the chat or raise your hand, and we can allow you to use your microphone to ask a question with your voice if you'd like. All right, so we have one question here. What happens if a grant doesn't use all of the money? So let's say that you propose that you're going to say, do a project under the MAPS program. You believe your budget is $40,000. What happens if you only spend 30? Karen, or David, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but because this is a reimbursement grant, I believe that if you only spend $30,000 of $40,000 budgeted, that means that you've probably only done the effort of $30,000, and so that $30,000 would be the full amount that you could be reimbursed for.
Yes, and I will also add, Steve, that any funds that aren't expended that were budgeted and you have a purchase order for, if your grant is complete and you didn't spend all the money, then that money has to be returned to the state.
Yes, so another good question here is, can the same institution or organization apply for both a Navigate and a MAP project with different lead PIs? Absolutely. What we're asking for is that the projects be distinct from one another. And actually, an institution could submit multiple maps or multiple Navigate projects as long as the lead PI is different and the projects are distinct from one another. We have another question about the total amount allocated for funding. So 4 grants will have $150,000 in total per year. Yeah, that's the intent. Of course, we could receive fewer than 4 grants that we deem acceptable for funding, or we could receive, let's say 5 that add up to a total of $150,000. But it isn't $150,000 per award. It's $150,000 total with a target of 4 awards per cycle. And if you do want to just jump in and shoot a question out there, Rick just allowed everyone to unmute themselves. So. Any other questions?
Steve, I think there might still be some confusion about the funding. I think the question may be if we award 4 grants and the total of the grants don't equal 150,000, say they're less than 150,000. I think maybe the question is, what are we going to do with the leftover money? I think maybe is the question.
I mean, I'm hoping we'll get enough grants that we may have to turn some away. I don't like that part of it, but as someone who's submitted and reviewed grants in the past, this is what happens, right? If we don't receive grants up to $150,000, that potential grant money will likely be left on the table and not used for this program. So submit your grant applications under this program so that we can put state dollars to good use, making things better for Hoosiers. I think that answers it, maybe, Karen?
I have a question. Could I ask a question, please? Hi, I'm Jennifer Spencer. I'm with Near Space Education. I think maybe the question might be that in the event that maybe there are not 4 grants awarded, maybe there's only 2 really excellent grant proposals, then would they just receive half of the 150,000 instead of the 4 different options?
Yeah.
1/4 of 4, or is it by 2?
I think when you submit your grant application, you'll have to submit a budget. And so if your budget is for $30,000 and there's, say, 2 excellent projects that come in with a budget of $30,000 and no other ones are awarded, only $60,000 would be spent. So it's not that you put in your project, let's say 4 projects go in and they each get a quarter of that $150,000 budget total amount. Your project itself will have a budget, and if it is funded, it will be funded to that budget. If that budget is larger than the amount we can grant, it probably won't be funded because we can't fund any amount over 150,000. And so, like many grants, this is a grant with a budget and activities that are defined, right? So this isn't, say, like a block grant where it's like this money is used to further this this goal. You have an actual project in mind and a budget associated with those project activities. Does that clarify things, Jen?
It does for me. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great. Iowa Lee, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hello. Thanks for the presentation. Actually, I have another question about the how long we can apply for this loop. I see it's 1 year, right?
Yep.
So we can. So if I'm interested, for example, if I'm interested in the maps track this year, and next year I'm interested in like the education track. So I need to do separately to apply the grant, right?
Yes, although we are saying that in a given year, a lead PI should only apply once. So if you were interested in this year doing a maps-focused grant, right, through the Atlas Grant Program, and then you would do that. And then next year, when the application period opens again, and you're interested more in doing a Navigate grant, you could apply for that at that time. But you wouldn't be able to do both at the same time because we're saying at any given time, you should lead PI should only apply. There should only be one grant that a lead PI is on.
Okay, so we can be PIs for different year.
We haven't actually discussed that in detail, but maybe that is a frequently asked question. We'll sort out the correct the final answer for, but because we weren't expecting maybe people to go twice for the same grant, but we should have a firm answer for that for you soon. I'll make a note to let you know directly once we.
Okay, thank you so much.
I don't want to give an incorrect answer that we have to back up on, right?
Yeah, I think That's good. I just want to confirm because sometimes when we do some research, we want to involve our research to the modern geospatial education. So this is why I'm asking. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, without double checking, I can't give you a final answer, but I would say it makes perfect sense to maybe develop a new technology, but then need help educating people about it, for example. But yeah, thank you for that question. We'll make sure that we can get you an answer to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so Rick has a good question about the Navigate track, and the intent says it's to develop and disseminate Indiana-focused geospatial training, and specifically, Rick is wondering what Indiana-focused means. So, and whether Indiana-focused means it's got to be Indiana data only. So really the intent here is to highlight the utility and use of Indiana's open geospatial data. One of the criticisms with training in certain sectors, and I'm saying this as a former educator in the higher education space, one of the criticisms often is that we are given examples of maybe workflows or uses of data that don't really match our day-to-day work experience if we're in the working sector, right? And so, one of the ways to combat that would be if we're going to train Hoosiers to be good geospatial-enabled people, scientists, workers, educators, whatever they're doing, we maybe want to give them examples that are relevant to their own geographic location, right? Or at least in general to a landscape or a place they might know. So, for example, when I was trained about terrain analysis using digital elevation models, the examples were like in the Peruvian Andes. Well, I've had the good fortune to visit that location, but most people don't get a chance to, unfortunately, right? And so I wouldn't say that you couldn't use data from outside of Indiana, but that you should be able to talk about the link to open data in Indiana and also maybe the process that you're using and its applicability in Indiana. I know that's not a direct answer like, no, it means you can use anything, or no, you have to use Indiana. But the idea would be Indiana first, right? Or Indiana focused, Indiana forward in the Navigate track. What other questions do we have? Yeah, this is a good point, Kathy. It may be that some of the things that you address in a Navigate track grant might need to focus on Indiana because it addresses the K-12 space or K-6 space, whereas maybe a college-focused application might benefit from a broader view. But ultimately the project's going to be evaluated based on the criteria which are available in the Notice of Funding Opportunities document. And so it's incumbent upon a grant applicant to write their grant proposal to the review criteria to make sure that they that they compete well against other grants written against the same criteria, if that makes sense. All right, Ahwali also has another question, please.
Yes, I have another question. I see the schedules for the webinars. So it seems the deadline for the proposal is September 26th, right? So actually, I see a pre-award. So I'm not sure. I just want to see when the award will be announced.
The award, yeah, this is a good question. So the pre-award webinars on the slide being shown right here, we have the SBA pre-award webinar 1 and then IGIO webinar 2 and SBA pre-award webinar 2. So the SBA webinars are identical to each other, or the same content, and they're really meant to help you with the Unigrants platform and to talk in general about expectations for grantees awarded grants from the state of Indiana. And so it's really more about the technical aspects of the grant platform. And then our webinar, this one and the second one that will be on the 4th of September, is really about the expectations of this grant program specifically, right? So if you're going to submit, you've come to this webinar, excellent. Then you would want to go to one of the SBA pre-award webinars to help you create an account in the Unigrants platform and get your submission prepared. And then the grant timeline is, as you said, the application period closes on the 26th of September, and then we will make award notifications by October 14th, right? So the award notifications will happen around the time of that post-award webinar. The post-award webinar will only be available to people who have been awarded the grant. And so it'll be kind of an invite-only thing. And it may not exactly take place on October 14th, given the award notification. We may have to talk about when that would be scheduled. But I'm, that'd be TBD. And then the performance period itself probably won't be able to start until January, at the end of January, because the grant has to be fully executed, including a contract and everything between the state and your organization before you can start work.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. All right, and Karen answered a question here about 50% complete, and basically the 50% completion point, which you can, which was discussed. Let me find that slide. I think it's this one. Choose it from the list. That's this one right here. Because this is a reimbursement grant, you probably want to include in there a benchmark for that 50% point so that you can say what counts as half, and so structure your project that way, and then you can get half of your awarded amount halfway through the project in a reimbursement, and then at the end you'd get the other half. All right, we have just a few minutes left in the meeting. Does anyone have any other questions or any other items that they want to bring up? All right, if there aren't any, please do check out the Atlas Grant webpage, and you can reach out to us anytime you want at giogrants@iot.in.gov. And we really appreciate you attending today's webinar and your interest in the Atlas Grant program. We can't wait to see your really cool projects, and we hope that that this webinar has provided you enough information to get your projects together and know what your next steps are. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.